Hello, and welcome back to a New Pace podcast. So, I'm your host, Leslie Andrew, and a New Pace is all about taking time to pause, act, create, and empower. And in this episode, I have a guest, Catherine Taylor, who is really passionate about what she does and some of the ideas around her work and some of the sort of mission around her work is really compelling and aligned with things that I feel passionate about as well. And we met only recently at an event, a wellbeing event, and I just felt really drawn to invite her onto the podcast. So thank you so much for coming on the show, Catherine, and welcome.
Thank you, Leslie. And you're absolutely right. We did meet at the wellbeing event and we were drawn to each other. And I think in our own different ways, we're on the same passion.
Mm. It's strange, isn't it? Because actually, um, sometimes we can like you might not meet somebody and then you just like speak at an event and we were both speaking at this event and then you're just like actually yeah do you want to come on the podcast so you've got a book, haven't you, and this was one of the things that you were showcasing and part of what you were talking about, and I'm just really curious about like the lead up to your book, and this could be a nod in as a general introduction as to your background, your profession, and what it is you do,
Yeah.
and just like yeah, what's led you to write a book?
Okay. Well,
That's quite a big question, actually. I realised.
it's quite a big question, but in a way, quite easy to answer. I mean, I'm 70 years old now. I wrote the book 5 years ago. But I came into psychotherapy halfway through my life after being a school dinner lady and all sorts of things.
Ah, yeah.
Um, and I hit my own problems when I became a one parent family. And then I trained to be a psychotherapist, of which I've been doing that for nearly 35 years now. And I remember going into it thinking, well, if it helps me, that'll be good. But really got into it. And after training for a master's in lots of different forms of therapy, it dawned on me that every person I saw became more potent, more authentic with themselves, more comfortable in the skin if we introduced feelings to the proceedings. And
Yeah.
I now say to feel or not to feel, which is a bit Shakespearean, but
Oh,
it is a big question. And I've found the book that I've written is called Life or Lie, Uncover the Facts and Switch on the Power of Feeling.
mm,
And I'm really passionate, and I would like that eventually to be in schools.
yeah. And this is exactly why it felt really necessary for you to come on here because sometimes people really, really struggle and they just don't know how to talk about their feelings or how to feel the feelings, and the feelings can be really painful. So when somebody's feeling a particular emotion and maybe like how does talking about feelings and feel what is that role?
Okay. Well, let's do a news update before people get frightened. Feelings will help you, they won't hurt you,
Yeah,
but they have been repressed. And
okay.
how are they repressed? Because growing up, I guess, if we've said to mum or dad or friend, I'm scared, and somebody said, oh, don't be so silly, or um, you've expressed your feelings very young, and somebody suggested that's very weak, very quickly a person can think, I know how the world works. Perhaps it's best if I don't show these feelings
Mm,
and hide them. And, you know, in the schoolyard, maybe sadly, it's a protective thing to do. But once we've wired ourselves for that model of relating, hide our feelings, And usually the feelings are shame, blame, fear, or failure. So, but what I found, if people try to anesthetize those feelings, the anesthetic's not sophisticated, so we can't now feel joy, freedom, excitement. And so people almost sometimes in depression are flatlining. And I have this theory that repression, repressing the feelings, can lead to depression. And
Yeah.
expression can bring relief.
Yeah. So that's so powerful. Just, that idea of we maybe have that belief that not feeling the feelings or pushing the feelings down or being told don't feel those feelings could have been come from somewhere else, that could be quite protective because of how painful feelings can be and how heavy they can be sometimes. But then that makes sense that actually if you're not feeling shame and blame and that fear and that failure and all of those things that are maybe rooted in something deeper, then you can also not feel that joy and gratitude and like that clarity and excitement as well.
Absolutely. And the amount of people have said to me, sadly, in the consulting room, "Kath, I don't feel anything. I'm
Yeah,
paying lip service. I'm almost like a robot. I know what to say. I know how I should feel, but in truth, I'm not feeling it."
yeah, yeah. And when people are kind of saying, well, actually, be positive or like have a positive mindset, and then maybe that somebody might struggle with that because they're maybe not able they might does that stop people from feeling things, do you think, if this message of being positive?
Absolutely. And you've just hit on something very important that once thinking takes over, thinking can bully feeling. So if
Mm,
we're afraid of feeling, thinking says, it's okay, I'll take over. Let's just put the mask on and pay lip service to this because I don't want to feel embarrassed. I don't want to feel shame. I don't want to feel all these horrible feelings. And I think Jim Morrison put it nicely when he said, the most important kind of freedom is to be who you really are. You
mm,
trade in your reality for a role, you trade in your sense for an act, you give up your ability to feel and put on a mask. And, that's really powerful that a lot of people that come into the consulting room, they don't know who they are anymore. They're just acting out what they think the world wants them to be.
yeah, yeah. And when people have started to feel the feelings, like I sort of think feel the feelings and do it anyway,
Yeah.
like that, what have you noticed for people?
I've noticed that people have become alive. They've become in touch with their own identity of who they are as they've dismantled the mask and realized that, all the things they thought they were or people were giving them compliments on weren't that at all, but they had bought into an identity of the false self
Mm,
that they have been building to survive.
yeah. So that idea of, sort of when I think about a true self and a false self, we think about, or when people are talking about being authentic,
Yeah,
then sometimes being authentic doesn't necessarily mean it's they're being really true to them, but maybe showing up as they think they need to be, sort of thing. Looking
absolutely.
like they're authentic, but not
Absolutely.
feeling it.
And that's why I called the book Life or Lie, because the worst lie one can ever tell is the one you tell to yourself. However, this is an intentional lie. It is something that has been built, as we've said, to present to the world, but you know you're not happy, so therefore you need to get into those feelings because that's where the truth lies.
Yeah.
That's where the gut feeling about who you really are. But as we've said, sometimes this is where OCD and overthinking comes from because the heart's saying, you know what, this is what I'd really like to be. And they'd say, no, 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 that's dangerous. You'll embarrass yourself. You'll do that. No, you're all right as you are. Carry on.
Yeah. So we often in our heads, aren't we? Like very
Yeah.
much in our heads. And actually, like when we lean into our heart, or some people might say you trust your gut or trust your intuition, then is that because that could be like maybe quite a, an obvious split, a really kind of distinct split of this is where the thinking is, this is where the feeling is down there.
Mhm.
And to me, it might not necessarily be like that, but it could feel like people have spent a lot of time thinking and not enough time feeling and really like perceiving. And
Absolutely. And if you think that feeling is a precursor to evoke an emotion, and the word emotion has motion in it, which means to move, if
yeah,
we're stagnating and pushing those down, there is no flow, there's no freedom in the life to be who you really are.
yeah, yeah, uh, yeah, I hear that because that emotion, emotion, like energy in motion sort of thing. And
Yeah.
like like just thinking about the nervous system and thinking about sort of like fight or flight and sort of freeze and how does that fit in?
It fits in perfectly. It's regulation, being able to regulate the neurological system, which can get hardwired for some people in fight flight, where everything feels life or death or, catastrophize. We get a phone call, we need to see the doctor, and by the time we've finished, we've already planned our funeral,
Mm,
catastrophizing. And there are a lot of people, obviously, in fight flight, hence panic attacks and things that people present with. And I think your question's really good because neuroscience has done a lot of work on self regulation. And also, I would add, the psychosomatic element where the body keeps the score
mm,
sometimes when people get irritable bowel syndrome or headaches and they've had tests, there's nothing physically wrong, but that mind body connection is causing some kind of stagnation within the body.
mm. Yeah, so if someone's been feeling really stressed and then they might get an illness from that or
Yeah, yeah,
maybe things that are like really stuck. So that's maybe talking about sort of trauma residing in the body a little bit, isn't it? And like
absolutely.
those kind of things. And
And it's not disease, it's we're at dis-ease within ourselves. You
yeah,
And when the head over the heart, when the head's trying to convince the heart of something that it's not wrong, it does affect, the neurological system. Not getting medical, but the hippocampus, the adrenals, and washing out the feel good hormones because
mm,
of that stress.
yeah. So you were saying about how, people might pretend to be okay, but actually then they're not sort of thing, and they may kind of show up and look like how they think that they should be. And do you see that more sort of is there one particular type of people that do that? Do you see that more in sort of men or women or different ages or anything like that? Is there, is there a certain experience that counts to that?
Well, I would say across the board, but now you've mentioned men,
Yeah.
we do know that we have 40% of male deaths are by suicide. So we've
Uh-huh.
long known, certainly from me growing up, that men do their feelings less than women do. But I would say across the board that if people are not okay and comfortable to connect with the feelings, that is a fundamental issue to be worked through in therapy.
Mm.
And I'd even take it as far as that will prevent you from loving yourself. And I don't mean L'Oreal because you're worth it. I mean an authentic love and care for yourself.
Yeah, yeah. So not actually allowing those feelings. It feels like to me, there's times when I feel like really sad, and there's times when I feel like lots of mixed feelings and things. And in some ways, there's probably things that ha are suppressed or that have been pushed down. But in some ways, it can feel a bit like I don't really have a choice. I just have to feel this. And it might be that um, it can, yeah, we can catastrophize, but and sometimes I'll think, I know that this will pass. Other times I'll think, I feel like I'm going to be sad forever, and then it changes, sort of thing. So, what sort of if somebody is feeling like really down, feeling like really overwhelmed or really stressed or like pushing away those feelings, what sort of things can they do to reconnect with that? Especially, I'm just really thinking you said about men and those stats are just 40%. That's like out of a group of 10 people, that's almost a football team.
Yeah.
Four of those may take their life, like
Yeah. Yeah.
sort of thing. And it's maybe not quite like that with the stats,
Yeah.
but that kind of idea, 40%. Um, yeah, what sort of things do
What
help?
they do? Well, first of all, I think we have to re-dialogue it, which is going to take a bit of time, but I don't know if you've heard of Brené Brown.
Mm,
She talks about vulnerability.
I love Brené Brown
I
stuff.
love her to bits. And she says that vulnerability in truth is true courage.
Yeah.
So I think the first thing to help people know is that being vulnerable is courage, not weakness. So to get people to understand that, first and foremost, they don't always believe you at first. And then second, the news update is feelings won't break you, they'll make you. Because I've had people say to me, look, if I feel all the feelings and I get really sad, we'll have to build an ark in here and I'll float away and I'll never be put back together again. But just like Humpty Dumpty, we
Yeah.
can put you back together again. And I think it's about, good question. It's about re-dialoguing what it means. It's about getting rid of that old model that it's weak, that people may use your feelings against you, and realizing if that's the case, that possibly says more about them than it does
Mm.
about us. But some people need to connect to the feelings through a song, a weepy film, uh, thinking about a loved one and almost thinking about it like an observer. Because people have
Hmm.
told me I can cry at a film, but if something happens to me, I don't really feel it. It's because they've disconnected, or as they say in psychotherapy, disassociated sometimes from the pain. So, but often, you know, a weepy film, a child, a loved one being poorly, something that will evoke the feeling and then help them to connect to their own sadness. And it is a process,
Yeah.
but a well worth process, because at the end of it, what do you get? A dangerous amount of freedom to be you. You know, and what more in life, what richer thing, just like the tree says, you know, I'm a tree, I'm a daffodil, I'm Kath, I'm Leslie, I'm
Yeah.
Mark, you know.
Allow yourself to grow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Because do you see a difference between someone that's maybe, because inevitably you will, that difference between somebody that's from a cognitive kind of mindset point of view felt I can't express my feelings. This is a belief that's been entrenched for me. And then those people who, through whatever trauma, for whatever like their experiences, it's been very much sort of repressed. Like the, there's a huge difference between those, but where do you see it?
Well, there's a school of therapy called cognitive behavioral therapy. And whilst I think it's a very useful tool, sometimes I'm a bit down on it because I've had people come and say, oh, you know, the last therapist told me to think positive thoughts and I'd feel better, and I'm trying, but you know, it's not working because I feel sometimes that's a plaster on a gaping wound. And if I was a nurse and somebody had a gangrenous wound, they might feel better if I put some lint on, but wouldn't it be better if we clean the wound out? And where the wounding is in the hurt feeling or the repressed feeling. So I'm still back to feelings, you know.
Yeah.
A cognitive behavioral therapy is very good, but what I've found with most of my clients is they've tried that and it hasn't worked.
Yeah, yeah. And actually, like everybody has things that are useful for them and
Yeah,
some things that are not helpful. And for some people that will be really great, won't it? And
yeah,
from my perspective of sort of art therapy, there's times when I've kind of got talked about the feelings and the thinking and the behavior and how they all link. And
well,
that's a CBT based like idea. But then if the feelings are so like if you're kind of just thinking, oh, I'll go with emotions. I know the answers to my CBT things. It doesn't
yeah,
really get anywhere with that. And a lot of the art therapy principles are more about, you know, physical expression of the
yeah,
emotions. And this
yeah,
is where we are on the same page with that.
definitely, definitely. I've had men come and say, I need 10 sessions of anger management therapy. So I've
Okay.
said, go home then. And they've said, what? I said, no, sit down. And I've had to ask them, why is a person angry?
Yeah.
Because I am, because no. People are only angry usually because they're hurt.
Yeah.
And but they never get down to the next layer. And particularly with men, I suppose we're bringing men into it again, they can get angry but not comfortable with describing why they're angry because they were hurt. And I have a favourite saying, hurt people, comma, hurt people,
Mm.
i.e. people who are hurting are going to lash out at others. But if we look at the hurt, then there's less need for the anger.
Yeah. So it's being angry on behalf of the part of them that's feeling hurt, or the
Yeah.
part of them you mentioned, like the words shame and guilt and like shame and blame.
Yeah.
And if there's a part of them that's feeling shamed and there's a part of them that's doing the shaming, or it might be like an inner critic, or it might be something that they feel that they've really been disappointed by or hurt by in their current life or in their past. Is
Mhm.
that what you mean?
That's exactly what I mean. I think you've described it beautifully, because a lot of things are to avoid feeling shame, blame, failure, fear. And so this is where communication in relationships are just sometimes so off beam, because we're talking about the symptom of hiding all those that you've just described.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think maybe we can stick to sort of men a little bit, sort of thing. And
Yeah.
like I was curious about this is something that I've heard for years, men struggling with to talk about feelings, and it almost been said in such a stereotypical way. Women do the feelings, and with a lot of things are about sort of being hysterical and overly feeling and
Yeah.
it being too much, and then that being a challenge, the way we talk about women's mental health is a challenge as well, and then men not feeling at all and the stigma around that. Do you think things have changed in your time as a psychotherapist? Have you noticed anything changing, evolving, or does it feel like we're still sort of dealing with the same issues?
Right. I'd like to say that we've got some modern men, not enough, some men who do their feelings. But you know what? Maybe it hasn't changed it enough. And maybe we still in 2025 got that problem of men not doing the feelings, and women, as you've said, almost getting hysterical to try to get the man, and I'm talking in maybe a man woman relationship, to understand her feelings. And all that's happening is it's triggering him. The amount of men who say they hate to see their partner, if it's a lady, cry, because they go into, have I caused this?
Mm,
Have I caused her to cry? So I need her to stop crying, rather than being able to lean in and say, well, what's hurt you? That wasn't my intention. I was also hurt. That would be great if we could do that. But the amount of men who say, oh, but then when she starts crying, I think it's all my fault. And then I kind of shut down and I don't know what to say. And then she gets cross with me because I'm not saying anything. And
yeah,
yeah, you
yeah.
can
And
see how relationships struggle because of that.
yeah, and you can see how people can feel isolated and
Yeah.
then think that maybe there's something about the relationship, maybe we need to end this relationship, or maybe we need to end this job, or whatever environmental situational factor, rather than like really looking within, sort of thing. And
Yeah.
as you were speaking, you'd already mentioned Brené Brown. I feel like there's so many things we can
Oh,
learn from her. That idea of vulnerability comes up, doesn't it, when we're having those conversations of going, I don't know what to say, I don't know what to do. I'm really like I'm here, sort of thing.
mhm.
And another thing I was mindful of is that the difference between feeling the feelings and showing you're feeling the feelings, of like telling people about your stuff.
Yeah.
So, and that can look like people say things like, oh, I'm being vulnerable here, and oh, this, and this, and this. But actually, that's not necessarily what Brené Brown speaks as vulnerability being. It's more just being present, sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I interpret her work as much as kind of anybody else sort of thing. But what feels important is to sort of redirect back to your book right now, because the power of books is immense. The fact that we both kind of like have an author that we really like, that we kind of learn a lot from, and that actually it's the same with your book. So can you tell me a little bit about your book? Should we talk? Let's talk book. You
Oh, let's
mentioned it
talk
already.
book.
You
Yeah.
mentioned it already anyway, but yeah.
Yes. Well, the book itself is obviously about feelings. Its title is Life or Lie. This is the book. Um, Uncover the facts and switch on the power of feeling. But if you notice the word life, it has an F in it, and the word
Yeah.
lie has the F missing. The
Mm.
F factor is the feeling. But
Oh, that's
basically,
cool.
yeah. But the book outlines, and I'll just read from the back, the F factor, which puts the F feeling into the word lie to give you your life back. It's a book about turning your life around by replacing fear with forgiveness and feeling your way back to freedom. And it is endorsed by GPs Behind Closed Doors, that program that some people
Oh yeah.
will know about. But in it, I hope I give people a guide to how to find out if they have repressed their feelings, and B, the way forward to being brave enough to express them.
Yeah.
And, expression will bring relief. And if we change the words round, re-life, hopefully.
Yeah.
And and I really, really am passionate to the point where I did say to you, I am working on hopefully getting some idea into schools, because, the schoolyard is where maybe a lot of it, or school itself. So, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
the book.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. It's so important, isn't it? And as you say, there may be people who aren't really sure whether they are just doing okay, or whether their feelings have been hidden away, or like whether they're putting on a mask, or they may have a sense of that because they may think something's not quite right, but I'm not sure what it is.
Mm.
So it's like, what sort of things do you recommend for people to do to sort of unlock that?
Okay. Well, what I recommend is that a person allows themselves to dream, and like an observer. So here I am, and I could dream that I would like to be a promotional speaker, getting this message out, and then the inner critic would say, "Oh no, you'll freeze up when you get on stage. There are far better people than you doing this job. No, Catherine, don't do it. Don't put yourself." And I think what people should try to reignite their imagination. There might be somebody, "Oh, I'd love to go on a flower arranging course and have a flower shop." No, well, I hate my job, but it's safe and I get a good pension. So, no, I won't execute my dream because of my fears. And I think you mentioned it earlier, the Susan Jeffers quote,
Oh
feel
yeah.
the fear and do it anyway. But I think an initial start is to, just like an observer, say, "I'd like to do this, but I know I'm not going to do it." And then a good question is, from Simon Sinek,
Why?
why? What's the why? Why are you not going to allow yourself to do it?
Mm,
And it's almost like peeling your own onion then, And even if then you have a list of, well, my imagination would like to do this, and my thinking to keep me safe says don't do it. Now I'll look at why I'm not going to do it, and then I'm going to have a reality check. Are all the reasons why I'm not going to do it, are they real? Could I do it?
Yeah.
Get more curious. How would I feel if I did it? Oh, I'd feel really
Yeah.
excited. But I'd say, no, no, no. So I think it's a case of kind of just excavating and going down. But
Mm.
because they say the imagination is the eye of the soul. And I do like John Lennon. There'll be a lot of people who go, oh, John Lennon. But imagination is where all creation comes from. And we want to create the best potential in us.
Mm.
We get this one life, we might get more, but I'm not sure. But, if you are holding back, at least investigate and get curious.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
love how you talked about that because it sometimes when people have this goal setting thing, they think of the thing that they want to do, and then it becomes almost like it becomes cognitive rather than imaginative and curious and passionate and like, what would you like to do? I would like to get a new job. It becomes like that, and you kind of, well, why can't you do it? And then we've got the inner critic and those questions rather than what in your wildest dreams would you love to do? I'd like to ballet dance on the moon. And
yeah,
then you kind of go, oh wow, what are the feelings that come up with that? And for me, it's excitement and it's almost like there's a joy. Some people might not feel those feelings because everything's been suppressed.
yeah,
So what it sounds like is this is an exercise to bring those out
yeah.
rather than an exercise to get to the point of working on your mindset so you can take the action towards the goal.
Absolutely. And I think when it starts as fantasy, which as children we did have more fantasy, and we spoke earlier about how some people can connect to a weepy film more.
Mm,
When it's a fantasy and we can feel that, oh, that'd be exciting.
yeah,
Okay, and then reality says, oh, no, 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 we're not doing it. At least we're finding a pathway to oscillate between the things that are stopping us and probably have more chance of coming to fruition rather than, well, I'd like to do this, but I'd have to do that, and I don't have that, and it's too cognitive now.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So then that comes up into capacity as well as the feelings around it.
yeah,
And I was thinking about kind of, how we don't know, our brains don't really know the difference between reality and us getting excited to go to the park or us getting excited for this imagination thing that we've got. And that and how actually we can tap into those feelings, can't we?
yeah.
When we allow ourselves to train to it. So you talking about, the imagination and fantasy and all of those things may some people may feel silly doing that, that kind of go, oh, well, don't I feel a bit silly doing that. But then what I was sort of thinking about how, what if that was a sports team? What if that was, I'm not a footballer, but I'm watching sport and I'm getting that buzz from someone scoring the goal. And sometimes because you've got someone that's really into football and the team scores, it feels like you've scored the goal yourself and there's that excitement from it. So how can somebody tap into that thing of someone scored the goal and maybe if someone's feeling depressed, they've got depression or like they're maybe feeling quite flat and numb otherwise, but they have that glimmer of, yes, someone scored that goal. How can you activate that and extract that and just kind of do more with it?
Well, I think you've actually nailed it. because you're absolutely right. Hopefully, people have something where they can be in the moment and actually feel and resonate with their team scoring that goal and jumping up. And, not to move on to another subject, but there is a lot of quantum physics backing up
Yes.
the law of attraction
Yes.
and saying that it's vibration.
Yeah.
And high energy and imagination and joy is high vibration, and being sad and thinking you can't do it is low vibration. And I mean, we can Skype people. I'm sat opposite you. I'm not in the same house.
No.
We can do all this with energy now. And I think you actually nailed it there, Leslie, particularly for men, because men put a lot of their energy into sport and things like that. And yeah, I think that would be a great way to start. Your team's won on a Saturday night and then kind of try to engage with that energy and bring your own dreams and imagination into it. Just like if people can't be sad, to watch that weepy film over and over and then gently allow you to join in with your own sadness. Because if life is a mirror, which they do say it can only reflect back to us what we think about ourselves, we can use the excitement of the sport or the sadness of the film to mirror, because it must be triggering us somewhere to feel that joy, to feel that sadness. And there's a lot of work done on that as well, that unless you really respect yourself, you're going to find people are not bothered about you. That this reflection thing.
So could a sad film be a way of co-regulating? The sad film becomes the co-regulator for that person who's suppressing their sadness.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it
might not feel like that because they just put the film on. It's not a person.
But sometimes when they've re-dialogued that being sad isn't weak and they have a right to be, and vulnerability is true courage, then they can be emoted or triggered by the film. Eventually, the subconscious mind, which is the part of us that is the good part, sometimes people might say the God part, the spiritual part. Once that part of us is convinced, well, it's okay for me to be sad about my abuse or whatever's happened or whatever, then once it's ready, you mentioned something back there that the mind doesn't know the difference between a real event and a fictitious one. And I have trained in hypnosis, and it is getting to this subconscious part of us where truth lay, and that the world being a mirror to help us access that, and yes, at first we just have to re-dialogue that it's not weak, that it is courage, that feelings won't break us, they possibly will make us. And then, be the observer of when your team scored and you can feel some joy, or the sad film's there. And so it's gently opening a space that says, do you know what? It's safe to let go. But it is a process. I mean, nobody goes to bed one night and gets up the next day. Some do, but being a totally different person. But I think, things that bother us, adversity is our greatest teacher if we have the wit to see it and know how to use it. But nobody teaches you how to use it unless you end up in therapy or something like that. But therapy can be expensive. NHS is struggling. We know that. So things like this, Leslie, that you're doing now to get the message out is going to really help the collective get benefit from this. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's it's good to kind of be able to sort of plant those seeds, isn't it?
Yeah.
Plant a seed of possibility, and you know that these people have experienced this and they've learned this and they've come out the other side, or we've got role models on TV who are in positions where they've then felt feelings and or they've shared about those things rather than instantly having role models that are just, in someone's life they might not see those things or see somebody that looks like them that is also experiencing some mental health challenges, and their solution was to feel being vulnerable and show up and say, actually, I'm feeling a bit unsure about this, or this
Mm.
didn't go perfectly for me, and I want to like admit that and share that sort of, it's something
Yeah.
about responsibility with that, but also seeing other people and what's possible.
I like that. I like your word responsibility,
Mm,
because if we turn that round, people do have the ability to respond. And
yes,
the other thing is they have survived all the things they don't want to feel. They have survived, but they're carrying
everything.
the rucksack of not processing, and then it's like the motherboard's full up, so there's no room for anything else. But another thing you mentioned, which I like, is there are a lot of influential people, maybe like the Prince of Wales and Catherine, and he's done some work with, famous footballers who admitted they've had problems. I gather Bruce Springsteen's just
Mm,
brought a film out recently. I haven't seen it, but I aim to, where we discover, I think, that he's suffered. And so these are all great ways of getting this message out.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if that sort of resonates with people, then they can sort of ask questions and always like speak to friends and family, and like, because sometimes people can find it hard to talk to certain people, but then they might find it easier to talk to someone else. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's so true, isn't it? That because that's maybe part of my question before as to what's changed, and maybe having more people in the public eye that are talking about these topics, maybe that thing. But then there's still a long way to go, I think, isn't there?
Yeah, but I'm glad you mentioned that, because in the What's Changed, I was still in my consulting room, but having spoke a bit longer with you, you're absolutely right. Having those people in the public eye is helping. Apparently, Andy's Man Club now, that didn't exist before,
Yeah.
I think that's doing tremendous work.
Mm,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. And it's sometimes we just don't know what's around. So it's hard to be able to say, actually, there's nothing really around to help me, or I don't have the money for therapy, or I can't wait for therapy, when actually something as simple as opening the curtains and getting some fresh air can make a huge difference, or that allowing yourself to kind of have a bit of a cry, or like you say about recognizing the difference between I'm feeling angry because of this, and this, rather than okay, well, what's really behind that anger? Is it a hurt? Are you feeling disappointed? Were you let down? Were you misunderstood? All of those things that are the layer, because actually getting away from it being a behavior, and then you're like, oh, I need to do management to stop being angry. It's like, well, actually, what's making you angry? Sometimes there's a lot to be angry about.
yes,
Like sometimes stop being irritated, some being irritable, sometimes there's things to be irritated about. And
Absolutely. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. And find out what it's about. And I once said to my son, if you're angry, you can be soft and strong. And I
yeah,
told you the story. He said, soft and strong, it sounds like toilet paper.
yeah,
Said, cleans a lot of shit up. And it's actually quite true that
I
you
love that.
we can be angry. We can say to somebody, I love you. But when X and Y happened, I was really hurt, but I love you. And find ways to, express where you were angry, but we don't have to slam the door and because nobody's listening then. Once somebody's in that heightened anger, and people are gonna what's the word, go back at you. They're gonna
Yeah,
go back at you, and so we've got an argument that's never resolved, and we never found out it was because I was really hurt when X, Y, Z happened.
yeah. So
Yeah,
if two people are having a conversation or a dispute and they're both in this heightened state, there may be that hyper arousal state of fight or flight, and they're both at each other like this, or one of them's running away because they're withdrawing, the other one's kind of going, go, 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 then we're not, you're not really going to get anywhere. Equally, if someone's feeling really stressed and up here, up at the top, and someone's feeling really flat and in that freeze or that flop sort of zone, then we you can't meet. So sort of meeting in that middle ground, that flow zone, that window of tolerance that I speak about. But
absolutely.
but more often than not, when we are stressed about something, when we're feeling hurt, when we want to communicate that stress, one or more people are in that kind of thing. And like I speak a lot of parents and a lot of kind of working with children, and sometimes it's a parent's considered to be the one that's calm and the child seems to be the one that's like stressed. But actually that parent might be, their nervous system might be a little bit out of balance as well.
Yeah.
So a lot, is this just about awareness really to start with, do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first stage in therapy is to raise awareness. And okay, the second stage is to take a risk to make the change. And the second stage can be difficult. But again, once the awareness is raised, I think the subconscious mind, once it knows something, once it knows the way of relating is not serving me, and it knows that enough times, it's almost, oh, I've got to change.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right. Once you're aware, you can't be unaware.
Yeah, it's like you can't unsee it, and then that's when you maybe your subconscious mind starts looking for evidence of the new thing.
Yes, yes. And then it almost, because I believe the subconscious is the good part of us, once it knows, it almost can't tolerate being in that old model.
Yeah,
And so it does take a risk. And I've had people come and say, oh, yeah, I agree with all you say, Kath, but I don't think I can change. I don't think I can change. Then they'll come and they'll go, you'd be really proud of me. I'll go, oh, why? And they'll go, well, this week something happened and I heard myself speaking out in a controlled way. And I was thinking, is that me talking? And oh, I had a really good outcome. So it's almost like something below consciousness, once it's convinced that it's a good move, will
yeah,
happen.
yeah. So when someone's in that practicing point of maybe needing to put more effort in and it feeling more of a risk to do something different or to feel and think differently, then are they often maybe seeing themselves from sort of the outside looking in and kind of going, is that really me
Yeah.
standing tall and saying those things, speaking assertively and not questioning what I'm saying? And then actually when it feels more familiar, that's maybe when it feels more part of their identity.
And they can embody it. And
Right.
it reminds me of Eckhart Tolle, who says, be the observer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Whereby it's a bit the imagination. Oh, I'm doing something that isn't part of me at the moment, but when it's worked, it's like, oh yes, I can embody that. I can own that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love this. And this seems seemingly like perfect to kind of get into this stepping into a new pace. We're stepping into that embodiment of the new thing.
Yeah.
So, this is the name of the podcast, A New Pace, and this idea of stepping into a new pace can mean so much for so many people. And
Absolutely.
what comes to mind with that for you?
What comes to mind when I really feel that we've um, really integrated uh, a good way for change. I think it fits with your a new pace, a new way, and I think it describes that it is possible to change, to become your best self. And I hope it gives people encouragement and they can hear that we've seen it happen.
Yeah.
I personally have been that person who's made those changes, never thought I would. And because I know how good it feels, and I know you feel the same, that we're really, really passionate for other people to feel this as well.
Mm.
It's definitely. I've enjoyed talking to you, and I hope that in time people enjoy listening, and even if they get one or two things from it, that's amazing.
Thank you so much. And
Thank you.
like if I was to try and capture um what you've spoken about today in sort of a few sentences, I would be thinking that it's about, having that awareness and just really allowing yourself like the courage to feel your feelings
Yeah.
and like just recognize that even though it's gonna be hard, inevitably it's hard, sometimes feelings are very painful, that actually what I hear from you that it's worth it, that sort of something there about going through that dark kind of painful feelings to then get out of the other side of the tunnel sort of
Uh,
thing where things might be more joyful and lighter. You can then feel those feelings as well, the more desirable, empowering feelings.
I think you've encapsulated that well, and the analogy of the tunnel was absolutely great. And the last thing is, this is the truth, that the feelings will not break you, they will make you.
I love that.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. How might people find you if they had a question or if they wanted to get a copy of your book?
Right. So if they'd just like to email Kathy Syke@gmail.com. Now, I suppose that was a silly name. So it's Charlie Alpha Tango Hotel Yankee Papa Sugar Yankee Charlie Hotel Kathy Syke@gmail.com.
Brilliant. And we'll be able to write some of those things and like into the
The
description of
description.
this as well. So that's
Yes.
great. So thank you so much for coming on.
I've really enjoyed it. Thank you for inviting me. I'm really pleased I met you.
You're welcome, and I'm really pleased that I've met you. I feel like so inspired by you, and just it makes me kind of it feels good talking with people who are in similar sort of line of work as well, and just bouncing ideas around. And yeah, it's
Absolutely. Because I guess people forget for us, we are quite isolated in our
mm,
work. We talk to our clients, but to, you know, speak to like-minded practitioners is also great for us.
yeah, and that
Yeah.
acknowledgement that actually, whilst we're holding space for people, we also kind of are, human ourselves as well. So, and
Yeah.
we're there with the feelings too. So, thank you.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you. Leslie.
thank you very much, and thank you everyone for listening to this podcast or watching if you're on YouTube. And if you um feel inspired to leave a review, if you want to leave a review, then that's possible as well. If you've got any questions about the podcast, or if you've got anything that you think a topic that you think will be useful to discuss, then let me know. And hope you have a lovely day. Bye bye.